Hello there, faithful listener. You've tuned in to Season 7 of the Bible Explained podcast. So make sure to grab your cup of coffee, because today we are going to be discussing the book of 2 Samuel. Hello, faithful listeners, and welcome to the Bible Explained podcast. I am very excited to talk about today's portion of scripture because it's discussing the civil war that's going to break out in Israel between Benjamin and the tribe of Judah, which is very funny because last time we saw Israel engaging in a civil war, which was in the book of Judges, it was also Benjamin, like the tribe of Benjamin was involved. So it's just kind of funny that it seems like so far the tribe of Benjamin is the aggressor a lot of times for these civil wars. So let's get into today's portion of scripture. It's going to be really interesting. This is 2 Samuel 2, verses 12 through 32. As always, I'll be reading out of the WEB. Abner the son of Ner and the servants of Ishbosheth, the son of Saul, went out from Mahanaim to Gibeon. Joab the son of Zeruiah and David's servants went out and met them by the pool of Gibeon. And they sat down, the one on the one side of the pool and the other on the other side of the pool. Abner said to Joab, "Please let the young men arise and play before us." Joab said, "Let them arise." Then they arose and went over by number, 12 for Benjamin and for Ishbosheth, the son of Saul, and 12 of David's servants. They each caught his opponent by the head and thrust his sword in his fellow's side. So they fell down together. Therefore, that place in Gibeon was called Helkath Hazuriim. The battle was very severe that day, and Abner was beaten, and the men of Israel before David's servants. The 3 sons of Zeruiah were there, Joab and Abishai and Asael. And Asael was as light of foot as a wild gazelle. Asael pursued Abner, and in going, he didn't turn to the right hand or to the left from following Abner. Then Abner looked behind him and said, "Is that you, Asael?" He answered, "It is." Abner said to him, "Turn away to your right hand or to your left, and grab one of the young men and take his armor." But Asael would not turn away from following him. Abner said again to Asael, "Turn away from following me. Why should I strike you to the ground? How then could I look Joab your brother in the face?" However, he refused to turn away. Therefore Abner, with the back end of the spear, struck him in the body, so that the spear came out behind him, and he fell down there, and died in the same place. As many as came to the place where Asael fell down and died stood still. But Joab and Abishai pursued Abner. The sun went down when they had come to the hill of Ammah, that lies before Giah by the way of the wilderness of Gibeon. The children of Benjamin gathered themselves together after Abner and became one band and stood at the top of the hill. Then Abner called to Joab and said, "Shall the sword devour forever? Don't you know that it will be bitterness in the latter end? How long will it be then before you ask the people to return from following their brothers?" Joab said, "As God lives, if you had not spoken, surely then in the morning the people would have gone away, and not each followed his brother." So Joab blew the trumpet, and all the people stood still, and pursued Israel no more, and they fought no more. Abner and his men went out all that night through the Arabah, and they passed over to the Jordan, and went through all of Bithron, and came to Mahanaim. Joab returned from following Abner, and when he had gathered all the people together, 19 men of David's and Asael were missing. But David's servants had struck Benjamin and Abner's men, so that 360 men died. They took up Asael and buried him in the tomb of his father, which was in Bethlehem. Joab and his men went all night, and the day broke on them at Hebron. So last we left off, David was now the king over just the tribe of Judah, whereas Abner, who was Saul's cousin, had made Ishbosheth, one of Saul's sons, the king over the rest of Israel. So now Ishbosheth has been reigning over Israel for about 2 years, and David has been reigning over king of Judah for 2 years. And so finally, there's some rivalry beginning to happen. So apparently this meeting was called, between Abner and Joab. And I'm pretty sure this is the first we hear of Joab. Joab was also kind of like Abner. Abner was related to King Saul. Joab was related to King David. He was, I believe, David's nephew. Abner was a hothead. Joab was a hothead. Abner was a military leader, the commander of Saul's armies, and Joab ended up being the commander of David's armies also. So they were very similar men. They were both kind of hotheads. They were both warriors. Just Abner was with King Saul and Joab was with King David. So apparently Joab at some point in time, which we're going to hear his name a lot moving forward, he ended up joining David, possibly even earlier on when David only had like 400 to 600 men. So anyway, this rivalry begins to happen because obviously Israel was not supposed to be divided. They were supposed to be 12 tribes that all work together, that were all a part of Israel. And now, obviously, there's going to be trouble because David is ruling over one tribe, and then Ishbosheth is apparently ruling over the rest of the tribes. So Abner, I guess, calls this meeting, or Joab calls this meeting. Somehow this meeting ends up happening. So it says, Abner, the son of Ner, and the servants of Ishbosheth, the son of Saul, went out from Mahanaim to Gibeon. Now, Mahanaim was the headquarters of Ishbosheth. It says, Joab, the son of Zeruiah, and David's servants went out and met them by the pool of Gibeon, and they sat down, one on the one side of the pool and the other on the other side of the pool. So all of these servants of Ishbosheth are sitting on the one side of the pool. The rest of David's servants are on the other side, and maybe they're trying to, work something out or just have a meeting, figure out how things are going to go. So Abner thinks up this great idea, which was really a terrible idea. He says, let's let the young men arise and play before us. What this means is let's make a sport. Let's like flip a coin and figure all of this out. So we're going to do a gladiator ring, and your 12 men are going to battle my 12 men. This will be a great idea. So Joab, who is also the same as Abner, basically, he's like, perfect, we'll do that. He's like, let them arise. So they're watching this like gladiator ring take place. And it says that 12 men from each side went into the gladiator ring. And it says in verse 16, they each caught his opponent by the head and thrust his sword in his fellow's side so that they fell down together. So what happened here was everybody in that gladiator ring was so resolute, they were so stubborn that they refused to die without taking the other person with them. So literally all 24 men died because they all stabbed each other with swords together and all died one by one. And this causes this huge bloodbath. This terrible idea causes a civil war because everybody is infuriated, I'm sure, over the results of what just happened. And so they ended up naming this spot Helkath Hazarim, which means field of daggers. Then it says in verse 17 that the battle was very severe that day, and Abner was beaten, and the men of Israel before David's servants. So Abner and his men, which were the men of Israel, took this really severe beating. And it says that in this battle, the three sons of Zeruiah were there, who were Joab, Abishai, and Asael. We actually heard of Abishai one previous time. Abishai was with David many chapters ago when Saul was still alive and Saul was pursuing after David. Abishai and David actually went down into Saul's camp when everybody was asleep. And Abishai was like, hey, let me kill King Saul for you so that you don't have to do it. But David was like, no, we're not going to do that. So yeah, Abishai was the brother of Joab and was with David for many years as well. And also this brother named Asael. And apparently Asael was a fantastic runner. It says that Asael was as light of foot as a wild gazelle. So Asael was a very fast endurance runner. So it says that Asael used his gift of running to pursue Abner, and he was laser focused on Abner to the point where he didn't even try to kill or capture anybody else. He was going to get Abner if it was the last thing that he did. So it says that as he's pursuing after Abner, he's beginning to get close. And so Abner, who is running away from this terrible battle that just took place, where everybody's dying on his side, it says he looks behind him and he says, "Is that you, Asahel?" And apparently Abner knew Asahel. And I guess he also knew Joab as well. So Asahel answers, "Yeah, it's me." And so Abner says, "Don't pursue me any longer." Then he tries to sacrifice one of his men to Asahel so that he can get away. He says, "Grab one of the young men and take his armor." So he's like, "Don't pursue me anymore. Go take one of the other men, kill him, and grab his armor." Because I guess maybe Asahel was trying to take Abner's armor, because we know that back in these days and throughout many years of history, that the armor that somebody wore was very expensive, first and foremost, but it was also like a reward for killing that person. And so maybe Asahel was just laser focused on Abner, trying to kill him and get his armor. And so Abner's like, "You can get one of the young men's armors over there if you want armor." But Asahel doesn't do it, and he keeps following Abner. And Abner, I'm sure, is getting very tired at this point, and I'm sure Asahel is running as fast as he can to try to get to Abner. So then once again, Abner says to Asahel, "Turn away from following me. Why should I strike you to the ground? How then could I look Joab your brother in the face?" So yeah, Abner knew Joab. Abner knew David's family and Asahel. So I'm sure that Abner honestly did not want to kill Asahel, possibly because he was afraid of the ramifications of killing Asahel, that Joab and also Abishai would come after Abner, or David would come after Abner. Or it could be that maybe at one point Abner and Joab were actually friends. Who knows? We don't actually know the relationship between Abner and Joab, but I would guess that it was probably more over fear of the consequences of killing Asahel. So he says, "How could I look Joab your brother in the face?" However, Asahel refuses to listen. So Abner turns around, and it says he struck Asahel with the spear so hard that the spear came out behind him and he fell down there and died in the same place. So Abner was most likely acting in self-defense. I don't think he wanted to kill Asahel. However, he ends up killing Asahel anyway. So now Abner needs to get out of Dodge. It says that Joab and Abishai are now pursuing Abner. So when everybody finds out that Asahel has been killed by Abner, Asahel's two brothers decide to pursue after Abner. And so Abner is like, "I need to get out of here real fast." And it says, "The sun went down when they came to the hill of Ammah that lies before Giah by the way of the wilderness of Gibeon." So they finally get to this hill, and Abner and all of the rest of the troops of Israel go up on the top of the hill, which is a good location for somebody to be in if they are in the middle of a war. It says that Abner called to Joab and said, "Shall the sword devour forever? Don't you know that it will be bitterness in the latter end? How long will it be then before you ask the people to return from following their brothers?" So now Abner is done fighting because he's lost really badly. And instead, he starts to say, "Hey, look, why are we fighting? We are all brothers here. We shouldn't be in the middle of a civil war. We can all be friends. So let's stop fighting because nobody wants any of this." And Joab is convinced. He basically says, "Good thing you spoke, otherwise we would have done what was necessary." And so then Joab blows the trumpet. It says, "And all the people stood still and pursued Israel no more, and they fought no more." So at that moment in time, the fighting was done. Abner and Joab were satisfied. And so it says that Abner and his men went all night through the Arabah, and they passed over the Jordan and went through all of Bithron and came to Mahanaim. So after this long battle, now they have a long walk home, and they even have to cross over the Jordan River to get home. And meanwhile, Joab also returns from following Abner, and after they made a count of who was there, it looked like 19 men of David's and Asahel were dead. That might have included actually the 12 people that had died in the gladiator ring as well, So for David's side, hardly anybody died. However, Abner's side and Ishbosheth's side had a huge loss. It says that David's servants struck Benjamin and Abner's men so that 360 men died. So that is a staggering loss for Abner, even though he was the aggressor of this entire fight, because he was the one that's like, hey, let's do a gladiator ring. That's a great idea. So now it says that Joab found Asael's body, and they buried him in the tomb of his father, which was in Bethlehem. And then after this, Joab and his men go home, and it took them all night to get there. Now, I always like to end with the moral of the story, especially for really historical passages like this. Like, what can the modern reader learn from this portion of Scripture? Well, this is showing that God was on David's side. And when God is on your side, you're going to succeed. Just like David's men here succeeded in this battle where they really defeated Abner and all of Abner's men. God was with David. And so if God is with you, you are going to succeed no matter what people throw at you. For example, Abner was the aggressor and he was trying to start a fight. But even though Abner was trying to start a fight, it still didn't matter because God was on David's side. And so God was going to allow David's men to succeed in the end. All right, faithful listeners, I'm going to go enjoy the nice warm weather today. I hope you also enjoy the weather where you're at as well. If you have any prayer requests, don't hesitate to reach out and ask me to pray, because I will write you down in my little prayer journal. I hope that you all have a fantastic rest of your day. Happy listening, and God bless.